the Double Trouble podcast. It's been a long time since we recorded. I wanted to wait until the season, and then the season came, and other stuff came, and the season is long gone. We're like over a weekend. We've seen a lot of teams play, and that gives a lot more content for the basketball part. And the football part is going to be long too, so this might be one of the longest episodes, as I'm going to do my predictions for the playoffs for the NFL, and I'm going to go through the first week of basketball that we've seen. Instead of going through singular games, I'm just going to talk about teams and how they performed through the week, and I will share my opinions on them. First team I'll go through is the Golden State Warriors. They've been an interesting team. They started the season abysmal, and it was like, alright, this team might be actually really bad. But, getting Draymond Green back, even after losing Marquise Chris, they've kind of found a rhythm. They've won, 2-3 in a row? Curry had 60, and, I guess I'll talk about that now. It was the greatest performance we'll probably see all season. He was incredible. He was coming off screens. He was dishing. He was going to the rim. It's not like all of his points came off threes. And that's what's great about Curry, compared to like a Ray Allen, Klay Thompson. Curry is not gonna give you all his points off of threes. As great as a shooter as he is, he's gonna drive to the rim. He's gonna do a little bit of ISO. He's gonna get off. He's gonna set some screens. He's gonna go to the rim. And that's more how he plays, not set some screens, get some screens. And that's more how he plays basketball. Obviously, threes are going to be a big part of his success. And allowing you not to sag off of him at the three-point line is also a big part of his success. You have to be on him at all times. You have to stick to him like glue. Or he's going to have a 40-point night like he just did. But yeah, it was a really good game for Curry. He was in his bag. He was playing very well. And listen, the Warriors have to find a medium, where Curry doesn't have to do something like this every night if they want to win a game. But Draymond Green coming back, he's relieved a lot of pressure off Curry, and they're not going to be a great team. They're not going to be a top 5 seed. I understand they're on a 2-game winning streak. I understand they're looking great. You have to lower your expectations for this Warriors team, and they're going to be along that 6, 7, 8 range. I would be surprised if they don't make the play-in game. They'll probably make the play-in game. And their experience in playoff games will probably win them the play-in games to make the playoffs. But there's a possibility they're not a top 8 seed, but that doesn't mean they're not a playoff team. Okay, we're going to stay in the West for now, and I'll tackle these two teams in the same segment, the Lakers and Clippers. I think they're both 6-2. They've started the season very good. The Lakers are figuring things out after a rough start. That Clippers game, they didn't look very great. And they only lost one game after that, I think, to the Portland Trailblazers. That game, it was a close game. They didn't really look good down the stretch, but it was whatever. They lost. And, you just come back next game and try to be better. But it's not anything crazy. Not anything you should be too worried about from the Lakers. And Kyle Kuzma's had some very good games. They're just looking better, like the Lakers. LeBron James had that great fadeaway on Dylan Brooks yesterday. I was watching a little bit of that game. Yeah, the Clippers, same thing with the Clippers. The Kawhi's injury was pretty scary, but now he's masked up. I don't know how long he's gonna be masked up, but he's well. And they almost blew about a 20-point lead to the Suns, and that was pretty interesting. Devin Booker and Paul George got into a little scuffle, but the Clippers pulled away and they ended up winning that basketball game. So yeah, both of those teams are doing good. It's nothing, you can't make a claim about who's gonna be the first seed, who's gonna win in the playoffs. Okay, here's what I forgot to talk about. The Clippers lost to the Mavericks. That was embarrassing. It was terrible. There's no excuses you can make that loss any less terrible. That'd be terrible. Whether you're the Clippers, I don't care if you're missing Kawhi Leonard. I don't care if you're missing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That loss is a 60-point loss. It's unexcusable. It just is. You can't lose by 60. You can't. So, yeah, that's what I'll say. And, there's been a little fun teams that weren't expected to make the playoffs going into the season, but they've been fun to watch. The Kings, that was one of those teams, Tyrese Halliburton, I think they have 0 wins without him. I hope he gets better. I think he's got a hamstring injury. I'm not sure, but he got an injury. He was out. He's been out for a while. He hasn't played in a while. So I hope he gets better and he's able to play soon because they need him. He is very important to their bench unit. He plays very good on Fox. He's great off the ball. He's a great playmaker. I really love Tyrese Halliburton. He's been one of the best rookies so far. And New Orleans Pelicans. They had a pretty bad loss to the Pacers the other day. They were up like 6 points, but like it was not much time left to go, and ended up losing that game in overtime. It was pretty embarrassing, but it's one loss. They've looked good for a team that expects to make the playoffs. They've had some really good wins, and I think they can get in the play-in game this year. I really think this might be the year they take stride. Zion's in his sophomore season and already about incredible. Brandon Ingram, you don't need to be explained about what Brandon Ingram can do. He's very talented. And yeah, they've been fun. The Spurs, they're the Spurs. With this roster, I don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think it's a playoff roster. But, they're going out there to play solid basketball. And, the Spurs are not an automatic win when you see them on the schedule. They fight. They give you a tough game. And then the Grizzlies and Timberwolves and Thunder. They're not going to be playoff teams, but the Grizzlies and Timberwolves have some pretty bad injuries. But the Thunder, they've been fun to watch and very competitive. And I hope they can keep that going because that's interesting. Yeah. The Suns, the Phoenix Suns, have been incredible. Chris Paul is bringing what you would think Chris Paul brings to a team like this. He brings energy, he brings experience, he brings toughness, and that's why he's such an important player, and that's why they were comfortable with giving up as many picks as they gave up to get Chris Paul. And I thought it was a great trade. Chris Paul alongside Devin Booker is going to be scary. That's what many people thought, and it has been scary so far. Moving on to the two Texas teams, the Dallas Mavericks. They've been good. I mean, listen, for losing your second best player, they've just. I don't think you expected much better from the Mavericks. Luka struggling a little bit, but he's lost Porzingis. Without Kristaps Porzingis, this isn't a playoff roster. That's what many people don't really understand. Kristaps Porzingis is another all-star to take the load off Luka offensively. And when KP is not there, they're probably one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So yeah, they need him back. I hope he comes back soon. For Houston Rockets are interesting, man. I talked about James Harden and his whole fiasco in the last episode. And since I recorded that, there's really been no new news on James Harden. So it seems like he's going to be a Rocket for the foreseeable future. Maybe something will change at the trade deadline. But there's no new news. The Sixers are 5-1. 5-1 or 6-1. There's no reason for them to trade for James Harden. They're off the table. The Brooklyn Nets, with losing Spencer Dinwiddie, they've had a rough start. But I don't know. But right now, there's no reason for them to trade James Harden. There hasn't been any new news about James Harden getting in the scuffles at practice, going to any strip club, so he looks like he's behaving. And the Rockets are playing good. John Wall is looking incredible, man. He's making the same moves he was doing before. He's making the same passes, the same crossover. He literally looks like he was never injured. And defensively, he's been great. He still looks like he's there. The competitive fire, everything about John Wall is there. And, I hope he can keep it going over the course of a whole season. And if he does, already, when you have James Harden, this is a playoff team. This team is going to make the playoffs. So, hopefully that we can see a little bit more from them. And, for you to put them at the contenders level. I don't put them as contenders left yet. I think I need to see a bit more. They had that pretty bad loss to the Mavericks. But, if this team can get going, chemistry-wise, this is definitely a playoff team. Yeah, I think Portland, Utah, Denver, the three other teams. They're just good teams. Denver's had a rough start. Portland's had a bit of a rough start. Curry completely destroyed them. And Utah just lost by 36 the other night. Rudy Gobert getting into fights with Shaq. But I think those three teams will be fine. They're going to make the playoffs. It's the beginning of the season. They'll be better. Yeah. Now moving on to the East. I think the most interesting team here is the Wizards. They've had a pretty weird start. They started, 0-4? 0-5? Yeah, it was 0-5. And then Westbrook is still sitting out back-to-backs when his team is 0-5. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how that resonates with me. I understand rest and load management. And load management is one thing, but I don't feel like you can load manage when your team is in the bottom of the East a weekend for the season. So it was pretty weird. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They beat the Nets. And I don't remember the other team they beat. But I think they'll turn it around. And they'll be probably a play-in team. I don't know about a playoff team. But they'll be fine. I hope they were really bad. Scott Brooks, the coaching is just really the problem. The rotations he puts on the floor, it's just, I don't understand what he's trying to accomplish there. You have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, and he's not a great coach, and he'll probably be fired before the end of the season. Teams don't really like firing coaches a week into the season, so I understand he's bad, but I don't think he's going to be fired 7 games in. That's what some people have to understand. Like, I get it, he's bad, but we're 7 games in. He just can't get fired. Another team that's been disappointing, the Toronto Raptors. They are 1-5. The only team below them are the Detroit Pistons, 1-6. And that's in the entire league, not just the Eastern Conference. Pascal Siakam was recently benched because of a physical altercation. He's been getting fouled out. He had a pretty good game last night, but it didn't result in a win. Their only win is without Pascal Siakam. So, I mean, I'm not making a statement. You can make your opinion on that however you will. I'm literally just putting it out there. But, they've got to be better. There's no excuse for this team to be that bad. I still see them as a low-end playoff team before this season, but they're not contenders. That's what people have to realize. They're pretty much stuck in no man's land. They're not going to win a championship, and they're not bad enough to miss the playoffs and get a top 10 draft pick. So this is no man's land. And eventually, they're going to have to go full in the rebuild. Kyle Lowry is going to retire. And if they're still a non-playoff team at the trade deadline, I honestly think that may be where Lowry's time with Toronto ends. He doesn't strike me as a player that's going to play 240. I think he's got a ring already. He's got the All-Star appearances. He's got everything to show for himself. So at the end of the day, he's just going to go until he's got nothing to prove and it's not worth it anymore. He's still got a pretty long contract with the Raptors. I don't really see him leaving Toronto. So yeah, I don't know. But this could be his final season with the Raptors. And his final season, I don't think he's going to retire just yet, but there's a lot of questions surrounding Kyle Lowry, what he wants to do, what he's going to do. Yeah. Some people say it's because they're playing in Tampa. I don't know. Obviously moving to Florida for a season abruptly is not ideal, but I don't think it gives them an excuse to be this bad. I think they've got to be better, and the coaching is not the problem, it's the players. So, I think they'll turn it around, but we'll see. Some early season surprises. The Cavaliers at 4-3. The Bulls at 4-4. They're pretty good. And the Knicks. I think I'll go into them now. They've been a fun story to begin the season. Julius Randle putting up triple doubles. He's been incredible for them. And realistically, ideally for the Knicks, you have your fun with Julius Randle, and he puts up these stats. He becomes an all-star, and maybe he leads you to a 10th spot and a loss in the playing game. And then you trade him for maybe a decent player in the first-round pick. You get a package for him because he was just an all-star and an all-star caliber player. That's ideal if Julius Randle keeps this going. And maybe he won't. Maybe it's just fun in the beginning of the season, and he's not going to be legit. And then, he's gonna get traded regardless. I think that's the thing Knicks fans have to understand. They picked Obi Toppin, envisioning Obi as the future of this franchise, along with Mitchell Robinson, along with RJ Barrett. He's there, so he's not a line. They can't play together. They Obi can't play the 3 and Julius can't play the no. They're not gonna be able to play together. So it's something they have to figure out. But I think Julius Randle will be traded sooner than later. Maybe even happen at the trade deadline. Maybe. But I think that should be the number one thing on their mind right now, because it's holding up Ovi's development, and he's just he's playing good, but I know Obi's hurt, obviously. I hope Obi gets better, but Obi's been hurt throughout Julius Randle's upcoming this season, so we haven't even get to see them on the court together or whatever while Julius Randle was playing like this, because Obi has been hurt. So Tom Thibodeau is gonna have a lot of questions when Obi comes back. But what I can be happy about in New York is the culture has changed. You can look at them play and you can see Thibodeau's effect. They're happy to be there. They're playing hard. The bench is cheering them on. And that's a lot of that is Tom Thibodeau. He's bringing a new culture to the team, and that's mostly what you hope for when you bring in a new coach. And he's doing exactly that. So that's good for the Knicks. In an instance, the Detroit Pistons have been bad. They're expected to be bad. I don't see anything crazy. The Hornets, LaMelo, he's had some cool moments, but he's not going to be crazy in his rookie season. He's not going to be an all-star, and I think that's what people have to realize. It's going to be a process for LaMelo. It's not going to be an immediate thing. The Miami Heat, they've been okay, and that's what it is striking me as, an okay team. I think last season the Miami Heat going to the finals was interesting, but I think the injuries to KD, it was one of the weaker Eastern Conferences we've seen, but there was a good win. But they had no chance in the finals, and I don't think they're gonna make it far this year. That's not me trying to make the prediction through 6 games. It's just what I thought before the season and what I still think now. I'm the Indiana Pacers. I started 5-2 when I originally made my playoff predictions. I didn't have the Pacers in there, so I kind of look like an idiot now. But good for them. The Pacers, they're playing good basketball. They've gotten things a lot better, so I hope they can keep that going. Orlando, I don't think Orlando was anything special. They had a cool start. What was it, 4-0? Now they're 5-2. I think they'll eventually calm down. They had a good win against Cleveland, and they play Cleveland again tonight. But I don't think they'll be a playoff team. I think the same thing with the Cavaliers. Some of these teams having good starts. They're going to calm down. You have to take standings a week into the season with a grain of salt, in my eyes. Boston, they've been good, especially with how heavy Kemba Walker. They have had some nice moments. At 5-3 at the moment. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they've both been playing really good. And Jaylen Brown looks like he's gonna be an all-star. Jason Tatum, we already know what Jason Tatum brings to the table. Jeff Teague, pretty good. Peyton Pritchard actually got to start against the Pistons. Let me see if he got to start against the Raptors. But, Peyton Pritchard starting is interesting for Boston. No, Tremont Waters got to start against the Raptors. So they're still trying to figure out that point guard position while Kemba's out. But they're doing pretty well. Okay, and there's 3 teams that I actually have some things to say about them. Milwaukee, they're good. It's Milwaukee. The Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks had an incredible start to the season. And people were starting to question if the team's legit. Now they're 4-3 on a 2-game losing streak to Cleveland and New York. They have a 2-game split against the Charlotte Hornets, and those should be 2 wins for them. The Atlanta Hawks, they have some things. They're still a young team at the end of the day. Rondo is injured. He's it's like kind of resting in rehab. I don't know what's going on with Rondo, but he hasn't been there. Danilo Gallinari hasn't been there. And these old guys that they got sort of mentor Trae Young and mentor that team, they haven't been on the floor. So, that's just a problem for Atlanta. If those guys aren't on the floor, they can't do much. They can't do much. They'll be as bad as they were last year. But I think they're going to be a playoff team. Right now, they are a playoff team. But they'll get better as those guys get back on the court. Clint Capella finally playing with the Hawks. So, yeah. I think they'll be fine. But they had a really nice start, and then they've just kind of been But I think, I'm confident that they will improve. And then the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn. So, Brooklyn ran through Golden State. Everyone was like, oh, alright. KD's legit. But their problem has been closing out games. Kevin Durant missed a wide open shot against Charlotte. That's game, if he makes that. Kevin Durant again misses a wide open shot against Washington. That's game, if he makes that. It's ironic that Kyrie Irving said that mofo can make that shot too. And with everything that's happened, Kevin Durant has not been able to make that shot. And what's interesting, it's twice that the game has depended on him making a Kevin Durant type shot. And he hasn't been able to do it. But I don't know if it's anything to read into. Like, you have to ask yourself this question. Down the stretch in the playoffs, when it matters, is he going to make those shots? That's the question you ask, and that's how you determine if it's a big deal or not. But, he's got to be better down this. He's got to make these shots. And the Nets have to be better throughout 3 quarters, that they're not in close games with the Hornets and the Wizards and the Grizzlies. There should be no reason that they are in close games with those teams. They are way better than those teams. But I don't know if it's anything to read into. I think they'll be fine. They have their problems. These guys haven't played right. It's just early season problems. I think they'll be fine. And also losing Dinwiddie is huge for them. They're still trying to figure out how to play with one of the best guards in the league, really. Okay, and here's the main team I want to talk about in the East. That's the West. I think I'll talk about in this NBA section. Then we'll get into the NFL. The Philadelphia 76ers. They are playing really good basketball, man. I can't believe it. They're 6-1. Their only loss to my Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, the competition hasn't been great. They've beat the Wizards, the Knicks, the Raptors, the Magic, and the Hornets. But I don't think that removes from the fact Tobias Harris is playing incredible. He's 10th in Basketball Reference's MVP voting. Not MVP voting, MVP tracker at the moment, which is, it's 7 days in, but it's just interesting. Joel Embiid is first. They are playing very good. Steph Curry, he's the best shooter to 6-5 since JJ Redick. You can debate if he's better than JJ Redick or not. He's averaging 15 per game. And I think he's the perfect shooter for the Sixers team. Danny Green, he hasn't been crazy. But he's averaging 7. But he's playing good defense, and he's decent for the Sixers team. He's something like what they needed. Joel Embiid, 23-12. He's been incredible. Dwight Howard's been great off the bench. I'm glad that he's got a fan base that actually respects him. Because Lakers fans were not very kind to Dwight Howard. Tobias Harris is playing great. And his team is playing really good basketball. I don't know who to attribute it to. I don't know if you attribute it to Doc Rivers. I don't know if you attribute it to the changes they brought in, like Steph Curry and Danny Green. But whoever it is, you can't deny that they're coming out. They're playing inspired, and they're playing great. And if they can keep this going, they're going to be a team to watch out for sure. That's the last thing I'll talk about in my NBA section. And we're going to move into my NFL section, where I'm going to make my playoff predictions. You can see my AFC wildcard predictions should be up on the screen. I'm going to try to make that happen. But they're probably up on the screen. But I have the Ravens beating the Titans. I think you've lost 2 in a row of this team. Lamar Jackson has lost prematurely in the playoffs twice in a row. After having big expectations to the Chargers and then to the Titans. And I just think they're hungry. This is the best roster the Ravens have had throughout their Super Bowl window. And I just don't see them losing a third time. I can compare this to Giannis in the NBA right now. He's lost twice in a row. To he lost to the Raptors, which is understandable. Um just like the Ravens and Chargers, I feel like that's an understandable loss. And then he lost to the Heat. That was an unacceptable loss. A lot of it was on him. Alright, so Lamar, that game against the Titans was one of the worst games of his career. I mean, you gotta go to Tennessee and play the Titans. And you gotta give it to the Titans. This is the best roster they've had. Derrick Henry was just incredible. And I don't think the Ravens are gonna stop Derrick Henry. But Lamar Jackson has to be perfect. He has to be perfect. He has to give me about 200 passing yards and 100 rushing yards and 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's what I have to see from Lamar Jackson because that's what I know he's capable of. And that's what's going to take for the Ravens to win a playoff game. Believe it or not, that's just what it takes on offense. J.K. Dobbins has been incredible. He's going to have to give me like 70 yards. The defense is going to have to perform. Ryan Tannehill, they're going to make him throw like 2 picks. If they're going to win this game, it's a lot that has to happen, but I know this team is capable because I've seen them. And they have the most momentum out of anybody. Throughout the past 5 weeks, they've been playing the best basketball, the best football out of any team in the NFL. You want to talk about momentum? That's what wins teams games, especially going into the playoffs. They have it. They have all the momentum. And I think it's going to be a big part of why they win this football game. Now, I like the Titans. I think Derrick Henry is incredible. But I just think the Ravens, at their best, are better. And they're going to be hungry. They lost twice in a row in the playoffs, twice in a row to this team. They're going to win this game, in my opinion. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, I don't have to go into much in Cleveland. They're having a COVID breakout right now. This game may get postponed. But they are not even able to practice. It's Wednesday. The game is on Saturday. They have not practiced. This is big. The practice facility isn't open. Even if it opens tomorrow, that's 2 days of practice before a playoff game on the road. No, actually not even 2 days of practice. They gotta fly on Friday. Yeah, I think obviously, it's not this team's fault that they have to go through this, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and it is how the NFL works. And, with this, they're losing a Pro Bowl guard. They got a lot of players on the COVID list, and I just don't think them going and winning this game above all odds. Already, without the COVID everything, losing a top receiver in the league in Odell Beckham, I don't see it. I don't see it. And Buffalo and Indianapolis, this doesn't need much explanation. Buffalo's just a better team. It's pretty simple. The Colts had a big lead over the Steelers, and they blow leads. They come back from leads. They almost lost to the Jaguars. I just don't think this team is great. Phillip Rivers, this wasn't a surprising year for the Colts. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs, but, they played some good football. But the Bills are just better. You want to talk about momentum? This is probably the hottest team in the league, with the Ravens right behind them and the Buccaneers right behind them. This is the hottest team in the league, and I don't see that just coming on to a halt. Really not at all. So I think the Bills are going to take that win, and that ends my AFC predictions. I got the Ravens, Steelers, and the Bills. NFC, we got they should be up on the screen. We got the Buccaneers beating the football team, the Redskins. Alex Smith is the worst quarterback in the playoffs, and that's assuming Jared Goff plays. If he doesn't play, then you can make a debate between Smith and Wolford. But he's mentally there, but he's just not good anymore. And, I don't even think it's really because of the injury. He's like, what? He's old. And at this age, unless you're an Aaron Rodgers, unless you're a Tom Brady, to see you being a, franchise quarterback is, it's just unrealistic. And he's trying. He's trying. And I applaud him for that. I do. He's going out there every week, and they're 4-1 since Alex Smith took over for Kyle Allen. 4-1. The only loss is to the Lions. In a game, they lost by like a 56-yard field goal. They could easily be undefeated with Alex Smith as quarterback. So that's it's something you have to consider. And Alex Smith brings a lot to this team mentally. He's a great leader. But as a quarterback, a starting quarterback against the Buccaneers defense, which is one of the best in the league, yeah, that's gonna be a rough time for them. I hope they protect him. I hope he doesn't re-injure himself. But he's gonna have a rough night against that defense. And I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I haven't done score predictions, but I guess I'll start. This is gonna be like a 17-10, 17-9 game because Tom Brady and the Buccaneers struggle against great pass rushes. That's why they lost to the Bears. That's why they've been destroyed by the Saints twice. And I understand this offense has been clicking. They're possibly losing Mike Evans. But I understand the offense has been clicking. But this is a great pass rush. One of the best defenses in the league. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, they're going to come to Brady. And the Washington football team might have a lead for a lot of this game. Until the fourth quarter where Brady takes over. And he does his Brady things. But I think, it's going to be a good game. But I think the Buccaneers will pull this out. I don't see this being a blowout. It's going to be a low-scoring, maybe like an 8-10 point game, in my opinion. Okay, Seahawks-Rams. Now, this is interesting. I think they split the season series with the Seahawks winning 2 weeks ago and the Rams winning earlier in the season. The Seahawks defense has started to become incredible. They were on pace to be historically bad. And they were historically bad. And they're not historically bad anymore. They're still not great, don't get me wrong. But they're decent. They're a sort of playoff defense. But the offense hasn't been good anymore. Since the defense has taken strides, the offense hasn't. And that's a problem for the Seahawks. But I don't see John Wolford walking into Seattle and winning a playoff game there. I don't see it. Now, with Jared Goff, we can have an entirely different discussion. But even with Jared Goff, they just beat him 2 weeks ago. Nothing has changed. Nobody has gotten injured. Jared Goff is playing through an injury. Nothing has changed from 2 weeks ago to now. So, yeah, I think the Seahawks are going to win that game pretty comfortably, honestly. I don't think it's going to be very close. Maybe 27-14, 28-14. And now, New Orleans, Chicago. It's probably the easiest game to predict. Most people would say, I don't like this. As a Saints fan, I don't like this. Last year, I was hesitant to pick the Saints over Minnesota. I would say that clearly. But I'm not hesitant. I think we're going to beat this team. We should beat this team. We're better than this team. But this would be such a Saints game to lose, right? It would. It just would. It would be such a Saints game to lose. Up the whole game. Drew Brees struggles in the fourth. And we lose by a terrible call. And then the sports world goes crazy about it. And Saints fans never hear the end of it. It's one of those games. But, I don't know. I'm not going to pick against my Saints. At least for a while. But I'm not going to pick against my Saints here. I don't think they're going to lose here. And if they do, well, I'll never hear the end of it. But I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is going to go into New Orleans and beat this really good Saints defense. No. Really. They're getting Michael Thomas back. Alvin Kamara might play. Even after getting COVID, all their running backs are coming back. And yeah, I think they should be able to run through this Bears defense. As good as it is, I think Kamara in the running game is better. And Breeze is finding his strides. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, I think we'll be fine. I don't think this is going to be very close. It may be a little low scoring, but no, I got the Saints over the Bears. Pretty comfortably. And I'm only going to do wildcard weekend predictions for now. I'll do predictions as, the playoffs update. But, yeah, that's it for this episode. It's going to be about 35 minutes. This is a long one. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you enjoyed, please give a like. Please give a subscribe. The support means everything to me. It's been another episode of Double Trouble, and I'm out.